The reason why I started this video was because of what happened on Election Day. And it affected me just like it affected many other Americans. And my apologies as I'm trying to maneuver my way around working this video and getting started. But the most important part was, where did I fit in? I voted, and I believe that, democracy would win. And I hope democracy will still win. But it being what happened gave me pause. And I literally, as an adult, took a day to really get my feet back solid on the ground, to make me feel comfortable. And I decided I had to remain happy. I did my job. I I voted, and I could not allow what may happen, or I shouldn't say what may happen, but I had to remain happy because I don't know what's going to come of this vote. But the one thing that kept going in my head was, how did we get here? In 2024, how did we get to a point where I just felt like we were just repeating history? And when I grew up, there were, my great grandmother had like these pictures on our mantle. And these particular pictures I always thought were family members. Um, as I grew up, I realized Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Lumumba Patrice, and Marcus Garvey were not family members, but were actually civil rights members or leaders. And for whatever reason, I picked up a Marcus Garvey Audible. And as I was reading that, even though this book, I believe, was written in 1923, here we are, 100 years later. This book, other than how they phrase certain races, and the time, obviously, it's as if we are still here. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And that's where I just wanted to start. I could not find anyone with this book, The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, to contact. This is a book, again, that was written 1923. And I just wanted to start. I just want to start a conversation. And this is for everyone. This is not a book that is just for one particular community. This is not a book trying to say this person was wrong or this one is right. But I just wanted to figure out, how did we get here? And this is where the one place I wanted to start. So if you want to go on that journey with me, let's get started. Chapter 1. History is a landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. The history of a movement, the history of a nation, the history of race is a guidepost of that movement's destiny, that nation's destiny, that race's destiny. What you do today that is worthwhile inspires others to act at some future time. I mean, just that paragraph. Just that paragraph right there. Let's go on. Chance has never satisfied the hope of a suffering people. Action, self-reliance, the vision of self, and the future have been the only means by which, the oppressed have seen and realized the light of their own freedom. Life is that existence that is given to man to live for a purpose, to live to his own satisfaction and pleasure, providing he forgets not the God who created him and who expects a spiritual obedience and observation of the moral laws that he has inspired. There is nothing in the world common to man that man cannot do. And so as I read this, this is again Marcus Garvey. As I say man, of course I'm speaking to all pronouns. This is his book, and to me it's more of an educational read. But there is nothing in the world common to man that man cannot do. 2024. I have to believe, even though me, the person who I voted for, might not have won. I have to believe there is nothing in the world common to man that man cannot do. And I believe that is hope. The ends you serve that are selfish will take you no further than yourself. But the ends you serve that are for all in common will take you even to eternity. It is only belief and the confidence we have in a God why man is able to understand his own social institutions and move and live like a rational human being. Take away the highest ideal, faith and confidence in a God and mankind at large is reduced to savagery and the race destroyed. And again, as I read this, these are the words of Marcus Garvey. I am not trying to promote any sort of movement. I'm not trying to promote any sort of religion. I am simply trying to figure out how, as a nation, 2024, we are here, where certain people have voted for an individual who stated that he was not going to let a certain ethnicity into the U.S., who stated that he was going to send a group of individuals, an ethnicity, back to their country. And he wins. I just want to know how did we get here? And so I started reading or listening to history. And for me, that history started with Marcus Garvey. Criticism is an opinion for good or ill, generally indulged in by the fellow who knows more than anyone else, yet the biggest fool. There is no criticism that calls not forth yet another. The last critic is the biggest fool of all, for the world starts and ends with him. He is a source of all knowledge, yet knows nothing. For there is not a word one finds to use that there is not another that hath the same meaning. Then wherefore do we criticize? I think that entire paragraph speaks for itself. We have an individual who is a president-elect whose platform is about criticism. Or do we both criticize each other in order to become president? I mean, that's a fair statement. Again, my goal is to figure out how we all got here. Fear is a state of nervousness fit for children and not men. When man fears a creature like himself, he offends God, in whose image and likeness he is created. Man being created equals fears, not man, but God. To fear is to lose control of one's nerves, one's will to flutter, like a dying fowl, losing consciousness, yet alive. Ambition is the desire to go forward and improve one's condition. It is a burning flame that lights up the life of the individual and makes him see himself in another state. To be ambitious is to be great in mind and soul, to want that which is worthwhile and strive for it, and to go on without looking back, reaching to that which gives satisfaction. To be humanly ambitious is to take in the world, which is the province of man. To be divinely ambitious is to offend God by rivaling him in his infinite majesty. I'm just going to speak on the issue of to be ambitious. Again, powerful statement, powerful paragraph, and sometimes our own complacency will not allow us to see what is in front of us. And did that happen with this election? I don't know. But, and when I say we as a nation, as an individual, I am a Black woman, but we came out. We came out and we supported the Democrats. And again, this is not about who or what I am, but this is truly about history. And as I go forward, you'll see the questions that are raised, the statements that are made that are similar to the same issues we're dealing with now. And the question is why? Admiration is a form of appreciation that is sometimes mistaken for something else. There may be something about you that suggests good fellowship when kept at a distance, but in closer contact would not be tolerated. Otherwise, it would be love. Religion is one's opinion and belief in some ethical truth. To be a Christian is to have the religion of Christ. And to be a believer of Muhammad is to be a Mohammedan. But there are many religions that every man seems to be a religion unto himself. No two persons think alike, even if they outwardly profess the same faith. So we have as many religions in Christianity as we have believers. Death is the end of all life in the individual or the thing. If physical, the crumbling of the body into dust from whence it came. He who lives not uprightly dies completely in the crumbling of the physical body. But he who lives well transforms himself from that which is mortal to immortal. Faithfulness is actuated by a state of heart and mind in the individual that changes not. No one is wholly faithful to a cause or an object, except his heart and mind remain firm without change or doubt. If one's attitude or conduct changes towards an object, then one has lost in one's faithfulness. It is wholeness of belief overshadowing all suspicion, all doubt, admitting of no question, to serve without regret or disgust, to obligate oneself to that which is promised, or expected to keep to our word and do our duty well. There are but few faithful people nowadays. Prohibition is to abstain from intoxicating liquor, as it makes us morbid and sometimes drunk. But we get drunk every day, nevertheless, not so much by the strength of what we sip from the cup, but that which we eat, the water we drink, and the air we inhale, which at fermentation conspire at eventide to make us drunk and tired, that we lose control of ourselves and fall asleep. Everybody is a drunkard. And if we were to enforce real prohibition, we should all be dead. There is no strength but that which is destructive, because man has lost his virtues and only respects force, which he himself cannot counteract. This is a day of racial activity, when each and every group of this great human family must exercise its own initiative and influence in its own protection, therefore. Negroes should be more determined today than they ever have been, because the mighty forces of the world are operating against non-organized groups of people who are not ambitious enough to protect their own interest. And so here I'm not going to change the words when it refers to, Black Americans, Black people, African Americans. I'm going to speak directly as he has it here. I'll try not to say the statements are powerful over and over again. But the point that I take from all this, like the drunkenness, it's not the alcohol, right? He's speaking of Prohibition, 1923. It's not alcohol that can make us drunk, right? We can get drunk on many different things. But it's up to us, right, to be awakened. It's up to us, right, to be strong, not to do those destructive things, to lose our virtues. He goes on, wake up, Ethiopia, wake up, Africa. Let us work towards one glorious end of a free, redeemed, and mighty nation. Let Africa be bright star among the constellation of nations. A man's bread and butter is only ensured when he works for it. The world has now reached the stage when humanity is really at the parting of the ways. It is a question of man, mind, thyself. The political readjustment of the world means that those who are not sufficiently able, not sufficiently prepared, will be at the mercy of the organized classes for another 100 or 200 years. And this theme he continues, and I think this is very important. It's education. My grandmother was a follower of Marcus Garvey. It's called UNIA, and he will speak about that as we go forward. But this is a theme. And education isn't merely just, I went to college, right? Nowadays we have programs. You can become an electrician, right? You could become a mason. There's different, I think that's right. There's different programs that you can do outside of going from high school to college. It can give you a profession. But to be prepared, as he states, is you have to be independent. You have to be educated. And this is one of those statements. The only protection against injustice in man is power, physical, financial, and scientific. Say this again. The only protection against injustice in man is power, physical, financial, and scientific. The masses make the nation and the race. If the masses are illiterate, that is a judgment passed on the race by those who are critical of its existence. The function of the press is public service, without prejudice or partiality, to convey the truth as it is seen and understood, without favoritism or bias. Education is a medium by which a people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and glory of their own race. Nationhood is the only means by which modern civilization can completely protect itself. Independence of nationality, independence of government is a means of protecting not only the individual, but the group. Nationhood is the highest ideal of all peoples. The evolutionary scale that weighs nations and races balances alike for all peoples. Hence, we feel sure that someday the balance will register a change for the Negro. And again, I'm just going to read it as is. If we were to believe the divine injunction, we must realize that the time is coming when every man and every race must return to its own vine and fig tree. Somebody will have to explain that one to me. I'm going to repeat it. If we are to believe the divine injunction, we must realize that the time is coming when every man and every race must return to its own vine and fig tree. I have an assumption what that is about, but I'm not gonna guess. Let Africa be our guiding star, our star of destiny. So many of us find excuses to get out of the Negro race because we are led to believe that race is unworthy, and that it has not accomplished anything. Cowards that we are. It is we who are unworthy because we are not contributing to the uplift and upbuilding of this noble race. And again, you know, me, the uplifting is a community, right? As I read this, it's not, he initially talks about going back to Africa, but from my understanding, that does change, but there has to be a building up of the community, education of the community, you know, politics. If you believe in one thing, to get involved locally, all of which I'm going to read and we will discuss. How dare anyone tell us that Africa cannot be redeemed when we have 400 million men and women with warm blood coursing through their veins? The power that holds Africa is not divine. The power that holds Africa is human. And is recognize that whatsoever man has done, man can do. We of the Negro race are moving from one state or organization to another, and we shall so continue until we have thoroughly lifted ourselves into the organization of government. Be as proud of your race today as our fathers were in the days of yore. We have a beautiful history, and we shall create another in the future that will astonish the world. Woman. What the night is to the day is woman to man. The period of change that brings us light out of darkness, darkness out of light, and semi-light out of darkness are like the changes we find in woman day by day. She makes one happy, then miserable. You are to her kind, then unkind. Constant, yet inconstant. Thus we have woman. No real man can do without her. We can end right there. Again, I will continue to read from that book. Any questions, any comments? And again, this is not about politicizing or speaking of one's ethnicity over another. This is merely about history. Why are we here, 2024, November, and why we fail to teach our children, the actual U.S. history. And how do we go forward? How do we go forward as a nation that we can see each other as equals? Is that possible? That as a community, we can support each other. That this divisiveness that is here can somehow be reduced. I don't know. But for me, I'm going to take the time and look into my history, which is U.S. history, to find out how and why other brothers and sisters feel this way, are fearful in ways that I may not be, but are fearful for the country in different ways. And at times, I believe it's education that we failed to truly educate our children. And so it begins, chapter 1. We'll continue. Thank you.